I don't know who I'm talking to, but I hear God saying that the reason why I can't leave you alone in this season is because I'm after the stony places in your heart. The reason why you can't get any peace is because I'm after the stony places in your heart. I want you to open up again. I want you to feel again, not for them, but for God. Not for them, but so that you can have a genuine encounter again. You see, because if one part of your heart is made of stone, then that's a part of your heart that God could be occupying. And if God can't occupy that part because you allowed fear and you allowed anxiety and you allowed shame and you allowed disappointment to take up residence, then God says, I don't have all of you. And we have a jealous God. That means God says, I want all of your heart. I want all of your brokenness. I'm not asking you to make your heart something it's not. If it's fractured, give it to me. If it's fragile, give it to me. If it's skeptical, give it to me. Just don't allow it to turn into stone. But I've got news for those stony places in your heart, that it doesn't matter how much your heart has been turned into stone, and it doesn't matter how long you've been walking around in a stony heart, that God says with just one touch, everything changes. With just one touch. And I hear God saying that I've been knocking down those walls for years, and they were made out of stone, but I kept sending word after word and friendship after friendship and scripture after scripture. You tried to get on social media to ignore it, and it was right in front of your face anyway. Why? Because I'm after those stony places. I'm after those broken places that the enemy meant it for evil, but God says I can turn it around for good. Are there any stony people watching tonight? I want you to know that God has created this moment for you to have a divine encounter from the place of stone. God, the place where I'm ready to give up. The place where I don't believe anymore. The place where I just don't have faith. Because the last time I had faith, it cost me so much that I don't think I could ever recover again. God says, that's your stone talking. God says, I hear your stone talking. But I hear God say, if you tell me what stone says, I can tell you what faith says. If you can tell me what brokenness says, then I can tell you what faith says. God says that somebody's got a stony heart, but the power to release the stone is in your mouth. God says that as long as it's kept down on the inside of you, it can echo and reverberate. But the moment that you are willing to release it, the moment you're willing to say, God, I am depressed. God, I am anxious. God, I'm so afraid. God, I'm afraid of losing another person. God, I'm afraid I don't have what it takes. That stone loses its power and grace floods the room. I see grace flooding your room. I see grace flooding your heart. I see grace flooding your spirit. God says, I got grace for that. God says, I got breakthrough for that. God says, I got power for that. Power for the place that's been stony since you were a little girl. Grace for the place that has been stony since they left you, since they hurt you, since they broke you. I got grace for that.